We went 17-0 that year in the carry. People don't talk about that. We had a carefree. Like, we were just like, man, we ain't got a shot of hell. We just gonna go out there and just hoop. I told my agent Leon at the time, I said, Lee, I don't want to talk to no team. Like, I'm just ready to walk away from this. Like, the game don't love me the way that I love the game no more. It's time for me to go. Peace, everybody. I'm Carmelo Anthony, and this is Boardroom Cover Story.
What's up, everybody? This is Rich Kleiman, and this is February's Boardroom Cover Story. Today, we are in Red Hook, Brooklyn, with my man, future Hall of Famer, CEO, entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Carmelo Anthony.
Yes, about time.
About time indeed, man, for real. You like that intro?
I like that. Getting used to that.
Your year at Syracuse. Do you now, looking back at your career, look at that year maybe as one of, if not the greatest year of your entire basketball journey?
1,000%. Even though we won it, what made that year was the fact that we weren't expected to do nothing like at that year. Like, the year before, Syracuse wasn't, they wasn't as good. And it's a very similar situation to what my son is going in right now, to next year. So me coming in there with 3-4 freshmen at the time, where it was no way freshmen are leading any team in college at this point in time. So I guess we had a carefree. Like, we were just like, man, we ain't got a shot of hell. We just gonna go out there and just hoop. And we all going through the same thing. We going through classes. We going through, practice together. We all freshmen, so you go through the same thing. And we connected and we bonded, us first. And then we started to bond with like Hakeem and all those, it just became slowly, like, all right, everybody coming together. And when it came together, it was just a feeling that, we really good. Like, it went from like, we all right, to a word, we beat Missouri, like they top 7, or word, Georgia Tech. Like, this is when they had Jerry Jack and Chris Barnes. Like, we beat them on Big Monday or Super Tuesday or something. They still wasn't giving us our love. So we like, all right, we gonna protect home court. We ain't gonna lose in the Carrier Dome. And we didn't. We went 17-0 in the Carrier Dome, but that year is definitely at the top when it comes to like one of my best year all the way through. I had the most fun. It was a carefree, playing basketball, working in the gym, teammates, gathering. Like, it was totality, that was my favorite year.
Kevin has, not to the same degree, I don't think, because they weren't able to win a championship, but similar kind of sentiments around his year at Texas. And he said to me once that, like, he really did actually think about staying for a year just because of the joy. But then, like, Rick Barnes was like, bro, go. Did you, like, with the fun you had, was it really a thought, like, maybe I'll run this back?
Yeah, I was coming back.
You were?
Yeah, I was coming back. If we wouldn't have won, I was coming back.
And then what Boeheim was like?
I just never even thought about, like, again, college basketball, right? We grew up on that. Like, you know what I'm saying? We grew up on the Big East, and we grew up on the ACC, like, down there in Baltimore. KD can attest to that. Like, we love college basketball. You know what I'm saying? So we going to college. Like, they don't go to pro where we from out of high school. So we going to college, and the way that you gravitate towards college, like, you start looking at college like, man, I have to do this when I get to college. And like, it's a pecking order when you get to college. So the process of like growing as a person, as an individual, growing your game, seeing your game grow, the fan base growing with you, the school now, and then you start to kind of experience conference tournament, you start experiencing the big games, you start experiencing the NCAA March Madness tournament. It's like, now your school just getting popping. It's February, March, so now you starting to see everything kind of blossom. By the time April here, the whole university is crazy, right? The whole city is crazy, so you don't want to leave that. Yeah. And for me, I was like, nah, like, I ain't. They were screaming 1 more year. I'm like, man, listen, I thought you stayed in school for 4 years. Like, I ain't. Why y'all trying to kick me out? I ain't trying to leave it. I'm trying to experience this. But once we won it, Boeheim was like, yo, you gotta go. Don't even think about coming back here.
You'll be in the Carrier Dome a lot next year.
Yeah, I'm in there. We bringing the energy back, bringing the lifestyle back to the Qs. You know what I mean? I want to bring that vibe. You know what I'm saying? I want to bring the energy. I want to bring the music. I want to bring the pregame. I want to, you know what I mean? Like the sweets and all. Like I just want to bring that type of energy and you know, to the dome.
You and Kiyan, he was born more maybe stay mellow than you.
Yeah, that's a bro.
What's the feedback you give on the game going into Syracuse next year? Like, what does Coach Melo say that he's got to do to prepare for freshman year?
I try to make him look at it longevity, right? So let's look at this in 4 years, right? So from your freshman year to your senior year, don't look at individual moments that may not went good for you, or you may have had a bad game, or you may have had a bad week. Like, let's look at this in your freshman year to your senior year, your development, how much better you got, how fast you got better. Think about what you done to get better, right? You stayed in the gym, you listen, you watch, you observe, right? You put the work in. Now you're reaping the benefits of those seeds that you was complaining about 4 years ago, and the work that you didn't want to put in. Now you're able to see it blossom, and it's on full display. So I give him that perspective, for one. As far as film goes, we watch film, we watch games. It's like, I used to watch games, and like when I was playing, and I'll put it on the iPad and write the notes. Yo, at 156 in the first quarter, yo, you missed that steal. At 2 minutes, yo, you should have shot that. Why you ain't pull up? Why you go? Like, it's like very like broken down on his game. So now I go back and look at him, like, yo, damn, like, yo, you fixed that. Boom, you fixed that, right? Look how many times I said you wasn't playing no defense, or you was lazy on defense. Now look at you locked into it, so you don't fix that, right? So I try to break the game down to him that way, because the X's and O's, you got that. You know how to play basketball. You play the right way. You know how to score, right? So it's like, it's these little in-between things that we really got to fix. I'll say 1, right? I'll say 45, and he know like 45 means.
Oh, you got signals?
Yeah, it's like, it's like, you know, it's.
I love that.
That's how me and him connect. You know, he'll look all and be like, oh, 3. 3 knows. Let's get to that spot.
That's fire, man. Were you soured at all on the league from some of the bullshit you had to deal with at the end of your career?
I'll tell you when I felt what you're talking about. Going from Oklahoma to Houston, right? And it's not like the basketball. It was just like the position that I was in, of the unknown, and feeling like you don't belong here, right? So when you feel like you don't belong in a situation, that situation ain't gonna work out. No matter how hard you try to maintain it and be professional and go to work every day, that energy is just not gonna match, especially if they don't want you, right? So to your point, I felt it at that moment. It was like, damn, like, it's really turning their back on me. And they said that, like, I know I ain't say that. Like, this was supposed to happen, though. Now all of a sudden this. So it was always like they was one-upping me in this sense, right? So when I got away from them, like, yo, that may be something that was supposed to happen to you. Like, it was supposed to happen to you. It was written that way. Like, you was fighting something that was supposed to happen already. And when you get a different mindset and clarity on that, like, now I look at that situation and laugh, like, damn, like, that situation was just bad timing for me, as opposed to going through it and trying to figure it out. And then once you've trying to figure it out, everybody else is giving you the reasons of why it didn't work or why it didn't happen.
You stayed so level-headed. I honestly don't think of anybody else in your position that could have done that, right? Like, your peers would speak out on your behalf. They would talk amongst themselves. I remember Kay would talk about how like full of shit everybody was. Like, how they talking about Melo like this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How did you stay so calm throughout all that? Like, you are one of the greatest players to ever play this game, and people are having a point of view like this about you that is so inaccurate, but you always stay calm. You dealt with things that most people wouldn't be able to deal with on a totally mature, sophisticated level.
Well, for me, it was like literature, like staying in my books, staying in my lessons, like really separating myself from the game of basketball. I'm like, yo, you know what? I told my agent Leon at the time, I said, Lee, don't have no teams. I don't want to talk to no teams. Like, I'm just ready to walk away from this. Like, the game don't love me the way that I love the game no more. It's time for me to go. And that's what I felt. So I'm like, let me just separate myself from the game. Don't answer no calls from no teams, because the more calls that was coming in, it was like, I felt even more disrespected, because it was like, yo, the calls that's coming in and the offers that's coming in is like, what? You want me to come in and do? Nah, no, come on. You don't want me. No, come on, me?
Sometimes, like, when somebody at your level walks away from the game, it looks from afar like you've transitioned easily, but how has the transition been from just not hooping, right? Not competing and not getting that kind of fix that you were used to your entire life?
It's challenging, I would say, in a sense, because you really have to, the longer that you just sit and wait around and try to figure it out, like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out, the further and further away you get from figuring it out, right? So for me, I was able to, kind of build along, ideas and businesses and, and start that process probably the last, 4 years as far as really like getting into it. I always been into it, always been meetings and phone calls, but it was like, when you playing, that's priority. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I can have a meeting, but it got to be at this time. You know what I'm saying? So you take the call from me. So what people are seeing now is just me really putting and sinking my teeth into everything that I'm touching, everything that I'm involved with. I've always been like that. I think people are actually starting to see it now. So the transition for me it wasn't challenging as much as I hear other people, have challenges after retirement, because I had things already moving. So sitting in these rooms and really, listening and observing, like, that really helped me, with my transition.
Do you think you've been able to get a ton of joy that you maybe didn't get at the end of your career from being in the gym with Kai and that whole climb again, right? Where it's relatively still pure, right? There's a business to it now at every level, but do you get some of that love beyond just as a father, but as a hooper, being in the gym again like that?
Yeah, I love being in the gym. Like, I'm a gym rat. You know what I'm saying? I love being in the gym. I love hooping. I love working out. I love training. I'll train with a 10-year-old. I'll train with a pro. Like, I just love being in the gym. And that love I was talking about, it took that away from me. But I was able to get through it because I had my peers. And when I was around my peers, the energy was a lot different. Conversations was different. And they can relate. A lot of them can relate to my situation. So it was like I needed them to, like, kind of build me back up and almost like, Melo, like, you are
Melo.
like, you that, like, you this, you that, you know what I mean? Like, you still could do this. So I needed to hear it at that point in time. So my peers really is the one who, kind of kept me up there like that. Fast forward to Kyle, like, Kyle was a part of that process. So he saw me going through what I was going through, in the grind, getting stepped on, people saying this about me, but also coming home at night and being a father. And, that, like, we are doing this is how we moving, but explain it to him as it's happening in real time. Look, you see how this is happening? You see how this is playing out? Pay attention. You ain't gonna understand it right now, but I'll come back to you at 18, right? So now we can have those conversations. We could be in the gym. We can have a deeper connection with that. And then the gym is just easy for us because he's a gym rat, I'm a gym rat, and we just love being in the gym.
Now, as a father, is this just like so rewarding and incredible to watch?
Yeah, it's no better feeling. It's no better feeling.
Are you able to look at Denver now and hold it in a certain regard where you go, okay, that was a time in my life too that, like, I dominated, I performed at a high level, the fans loved me, and kind of put aside any bullshit that might have come with that situation?
Yeah, honestly, I don't have any bull. Like, there's no bullshit with me with Denver, to be honest. My only bullshit came with George. Like, that was the only bullshit I had. I never had front office. We always had a really good relationship. Stan, we had a good relationship. You know what I mean? Like, Josh, we had a good relationship. Kiki Vanderway, like on and on. Mark Walkentine, like God bless his soul. Like my only kind of thing was with George, and maybe I do look back and I'm like, man, I was young trying to figure out my game, trying to figure it out. I got to run the organization, I got to represent, and also I got to be true to who I am. Like, so I had somebody like George who was older, coach, been around the block for a long time, that really was trying to send me a message in a way. Like if he would have delivered the message differently, I probably would have received it differently. But now looking back at it, like, dang, he was saying some shit to me, but it wasn't the way that you should say it to that play in that situation. But as far as Denver goes, my love for Denver is high. Like I hold Denver damn near where I hold New York at, because it was the beginning. Like we built that. We built that culture in Denver. We changed the colors, and we changed the culture of the NBA in a sense. Them powder blue uniforms, like we changed that to where everybody's like, oh, we got to switch our uniforms up. NBA started changing a lot of things after that. So when you talk about like culturally, Denver got to be there, because we took a city that wasn't getting no eyeballs and wasn't getting no attention outside of the Broncos and John Elway, right? So now you see 15 jerseys all over the country, all over the world now. So now Denver is not just in Colorado no more. Denver is in Baltimore. Denver is in China. Denver is in, Philippines. Like Denver's across the world now. So I don't take none of that for granted, which allows me to be at peace and hold Denver.
It was almost like you guys were like a Fab Five like type of.
We had that energy,
impact, and that energy. You're nominated for the Hall. You'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Nobody questioned it. Does that just quickly put even more perspective on like your greatness and what you were able to accomplish?
Yeah, what it does is it allowed me to say, you know what, I done did it. Like there's nothing else I could possibly do in the sport of basketball. Like there's nothing else I can do. I done top 75 of all time. I'm scoring champion. You know what I mean? Like, I got a lot of individual accolades, right, that you can appreciate now as opposed to appreciating them then. I done played with some of the greatest players, right? I done played with the AIs. I done played with a champion, Chauncey. I done played with Kenyon Martin, who's considered one of the best power forwards, most athletic power forwards of all time. I done played with Sixth Man of the Year, JR. I done played with Defensive Player of the Year, Tyson Chandler. I done played with a potential Hall of Famer, Amari Stoudemire. I done played with a lot of people. So my appreciation for the game is like, once that door opened for you, there's nowhere else to go. Like there's nowhere else to go. So I gotta appreciate that.
And you're gonna go in as a Knick, right?
Yes.
So knowing that Denver holds such a strong place in your heart, but New York, I think everybody can see, is like connected with you in a way that's hard to explain. Why do you think it clicked the way it clicked? I think everybody that watched knew you appreciated playing in the Garden.
It's really hard to explain, to be honest with you, because I went through it, right? I done went through kind of against New York in a sense, right? Like against New York, like me playing like against my own fans that time, right? So it was like, most people be like, yo, why you loving that? Like, why you connected to him? Like, I can't be, like, I done went through hell. I done went through the fire. I done took every responsibility, accountability that you could possibly take as an athlete here in New York. For one, I had a greater appreciation of what it meant to play in the Garden and to put Knicks uniform on. So I understood my assignment when I came here was, I know I got to perform no matter what is happening. I know I have to perform. I can't worry about what they did to A-Rod or Jeter or, the Eli. Like, I can't, like, Marbury even. Like, I studied all of that. I studied how they moved. I studied how the media moved. I really sat down and studied all of that to the point where it was like, yo, I would never, ever allow any of that to happen to me. And that was like my shield when I came to New York. Like, I'm just going to play ball and whatever happens, whatever y'all say is cool. Like, I'm just gonna go hoop and play basketball. I think my appreciation for one, wanting to come to New York and wanting to embrace New York and really wanting to give New York an opportunity and a chance, people will always respect that, right? I think the fact that I went through what I went through in New York, and it was one-sided when I was going through it. And I've never I've never said anything. I stood tall on everything. I just backed out of it. And I think once I left, it was a different type of appreciation, because it's like, damn, like, it ain't, we still going through what we still going through this. We still go. I come back and Porzingis is here. And I'm like, yo, what's always like, man, it's the same process. And I'm like, fans just got an opportunity, and fans grew up. Like, I matured, I grew up, you know, I got growth. The fans that was at that point in time has grown up and got new perspectives and able to understand 1 and 1 equals 2, not 1 and 1 equals 3. So I think that's what we're seeing now. I think we're seeing a greater appreciation of somebody who really came to New York, really tried to put New York on their back. Somebody who was outside. I'm in the streets, not in the back. You know, I'm in the streets. I'm talking to people. I'm with kids on courts. I'm in the rec centers. I'm in the hood. I'm all over the place. So, once you build that connection, it's hard to break that bar.
Is there a moment, whether it's in New York or at any point in your career, that keeps you up at night?
Yeah, it's a couple seasons. The season we had, you know, I think about the season we had when AI came to Denver. Like, that's always I think about that all the time. That following season, the Western Conference Final season, like against Cole, that was, always think about that. And then the season here in New York, like that 12-13, I think it was 12-13, something like that. When you lost to Indiana. Yeah, it was like those seasons were really like jumpstart seasons in a sense, because we were in Denver, we were building something. We were really creating something. Like from 03, 04, when I came in, every year we was trying to build up to that moment in 08, 09, right? And however way it went, but we were building up to that. And I think about those moments. I think about inbound plays. At the end of the game, we could have been playing Orlando. Like, I think about if we didn't make some of those plays down the stretch, you know, what would have happened if, you know, Covenant would have came to Denver? Like, what does 2-0 mean going back to Denver at home? Like, it's a big difference going back home 1-1 as opposed to 2-0.
Night and day, yeah.
Right? So it's like, I think about all of those scenarios. I still watch the games. I'll be yelling at the TV like, nah, Melo, like, I'll be able to catch myself. Chill, no, don't shoot that. It's like, oh, shit, like, this shit been, you know, years ago.
What kind of changed when you retired in terms of mindset and how you looked at your team and said, all right, cool, like, next chapter? Because you had done quite a bit and probably didn't have to do anything.
Like, basketball and the game of basketball for me is like, everything is owed to that. Like, I'm able to do all these other endeavors in business because of the game of basketball. So I will always be like indebted to that. So like 30 years, like I done gave 30 years of my life to the game of basketball. And now I done reached the pinnacle of the game of basketball, which is Hall of Fame, right? So it's like, that took me 30 years, 31 years to reach that. So now I knew I'm behind the 8 ball now. When you think about other endeavors, and that's 30 years that it took me to master one craft, right? So now I'm like, what's my next challenge? You don't have another challenge like basketball challenge. You don't have those challenges. Nothing is going to get you competitively going to where as though you got to lose sleep and where as though you got to fight and you got to strategize. Like, it's a different type of strategizing now. So it makes it fun. It makes it more relaxing. It makes it me able to see things from a broader perspective as opposed to being so gun-ho and so tight on everything. So building that wasn't easy. Like, building that is It's not easy. Building an enterprise or trying to build an enterprise, or you think you're trying to build an enterprise, it's not easy. I had a lot of things going on as I was playing individually that I was kind of planting the seed on, but I was still 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Yeah.
So there was information that I wouldn't be getting sometimes because it's just, we know he focused on the game, like we got it. So it was a disconnect between that. So now by the time I get it, it's a different perspective. So we all had to get on the same page. Being outside the game, retired, allowed me to actually focus on everything that I had to focus on. Put the team together, structure it the way that I feel like is a scalable business, as opposed to doing this individual business and the wine and the cannabis and the lifestyle. Now these little silos now all come under one umbrella, right? So I couldn't wrap my mind around that playing, because it just wasn't, I didn't have enough capacity to do that the way I wanted to do it. So I had to really trust my team and trust the people that was on my team to keep the train running. So by the time I'm done, now we could come to the table and really plan this out.
I always am impressed because, similar to how you move in general, like, you don't feel the need to boast about everything you're working on. You didn't need to take press releases all throughout your career of everything you were working on. But then I'd run into a meeting and someone would say that, Melo invested in the last round, or Melo's down with this thing as well, or I was just talking to Melo about this. And I knew you were planting the seeds. But now when you look at what you have started to cultivate and what you have in motion, what is the kind of enterprise that you have built? What consists of all those silos?
Yeah, so individually, I had Creative 7, right? That was a production, right? So that was all content. And then I had the wine business, right? Vending 7th Estate. It was like, okay, man, it's time they're going to start that business. And we go get in the wine industry. All right, cool. I'm in Portland at this time, in Oregon. You know what? I'm really intrigued into the cannabis industry. This is the perfect place for me to start, plant, observe, see what's happening, get my feet into the door. And then the lifestyle brand, right? The Stay Mellow whole overall, Stay Mellow is a mindfulness, wellness, lifestyle brand, right? Where it's like the message speaks for itself. When in doubt, stay mellow. Remaining calm in the midst of chaos. Like, that goes with anybody, anything, any product. So I think at the end of the day, that will kind of be the North Star, because I can scale that on a much greater scale. Globally, I can scale that. And again, mental health, mental awareness, stress, depression, like all of them things plays alongside the lifestyle of Stay Mellow, right? And just what is included into that lifestyle, right? It's like, yeah, it's cool to be cool. Like, you know what I mean? You could be cool in your own right. Like, it's cool to want to be on boats, and it's cool to want to be on bikes. It's cool to want to have a fly whip, and it's cool to want to have a donk. Like, it's like, these things are cool. Like, so for me, I try to do things that, again, I deal with on a daily basis. So the Stay Mellow lifestyle brand is really that. It's like hotels. Like, how do we tap into hotels and do these Stay Mellow retreats? And how do we do Stay Mellow resort? And real fly. Everything that I do have to connect within the ecosystem, some way, shape, or form. Like, if I'm doing something for a magazine, okay, how do we incorporate the wine? How do we incorporate this? Like, let's really work together on this. So now Creative 7 is the umbrella to what we have going on. Working on a little small kind of creative agency, design agency. So it's like that's gonna take some time, but everything is connected to Creative 7 now at this point.
It's interesting that you are so mellow, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I am, man.
You really are so mellow, which is why the brand works and why it's so believable. And you're super mellow when you're sipping on your wine.
Facts.
you guys have done a really good job. Like I've watched and I see the story you're weaving and I see the way you guys are building it, the way you're honoring it, right? Like the pace that you're building it at. What was the rationale behind it? Obviously wine is very present. Like NBA players love a good bottle of wine, but you've done something that seems like you really love this business.
Most of the things that like I try to do is like things that I know I'm going to entrench myself into, like things that I'm affiliated with every single day, things that I do every single day. I try to stay in those lanes. I try not to go outside things that I'm not thinking about or I'm not focused on or just may not be in front of me at this moment. Like I'm not going to try anything new. But as far as the wine goes, I thought about it. I'm like, oh, this is like nobody is doing it. Like nobody, no athlete is really, really doing it. You had a couple athletes who was doing it, but they really, really knew about the industry or they grew up in some of those regions that they knew about the industry, but nobody really was just like, you know what? I'm going to take this industry. Like I'm stepping into this industry and I'm gonna do it in the classy, creative way where I can merge two worlds, right? I can take the old world of wine and the old way of thinking to this new energy, this new world of wine and thinking. And I'm gonna be the conduit between the old world and the new world. And once I came up with that, everything else just flows off of that, right? I think the fact that I kept it authentic as far as going back to France, I could have went to Burgundy, I could have went to Bordeaux. Like I went to Chateauneuf du Pape. Like I went to a place like if you know it, you know what I'm doing. You know it. You know the strategy. If you know Chateauneuf du Pape. For so long, the wine business was like the F&B business. Like, don't get into it. Like, people would tell you, don't do no restaurant, don't do this, don't certain things they would tell you to do. And the wine industry was one of them. You don't make no money, they say. There's just a lot of things that go on. So I was traveling and I'm like, you know what? Like, I want to do my own blend. Like, I feel like I don't work my way to do, you know what I mean? My palate don't work this way up to do his own blend. And I went over to France. And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing my own blend. So we was working on one wine. So we went over there to just figure out one wine and just the experience that was created around that one wine. I'm like, wow, like, here's a business. Yeah. Y'all don't really sell Chateauneuf du Pape in the U.S. How about we do it now? How about we do a deal? I help you guys with distribution in the States. We come over here. We do all the creative, we do all the strategy. All we need is to pick our plot and let us build from there. And it grew, right? And it's like, but I had to put the work into that. I had to go over there. I had to like sit down and like go through some of the harvest and like go through like talking to the people and sitting down with the farmers at their house and eat. Like it's small towns we talking about over here. So they had to really believe in what I was trying to do and make sure that it wasn't no funny business. So that made it fun for me, going over to France and picking wine and, and pruning and, those are wine terms. But like you're doing all these things out there and you realize this is very special what these people really do. Like, so I had a different type of appreciation for the wine. So I brought a lot of that energy back to the locker room and back on the bus and, oh man, here go Melo with the wine again. Melo with this case. Melo, like, it was all like soft stories at that time, until everybody like, yo, what we drinking? Like, well, yo, what's tonight? What we drink? Where we going to eat? Yo, I'm at the restaurant. Let me know a name. Like, I thrive off of that. They gotta want to mess with you. They gotta want to believe in what you have going on. Like, you gotta be an authentic person to sell something that's authentic, right?
You gotta believe it.
You gotta believe it, right? So I think for me, all of the things that I've been through on the court, and we were talking about New York and Denver, is like, that just built me up and created something to where I can, right now, people know that whatever product I put out there is gonna be a very authentic product, true to myself, something that I believe people would enjoy. I take my experience from basketball, like USA basketball and traveling. So I'm trying to create the World Cup of wines in a sense. That's like how I look at my strategy. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to France, and these are the reasons we're gonna hit France. I'm gonna go to Australia. I'm over here with the NBL. I'm gonna hit these regions. I'm going to China. We're gonna figure out China. I went to Lisbon and Portugal. We're gonna figure out Portugal, South Africa. We're gonna figure out South Africa. So like I'm, Argentina, Chile. Like we gonna hit all of these kind of places around the world, man, and just really create the World Cup of wine. So it's not just based off of the wine, it's content too. Like we creating TV shows around the wine and traveling and, identifying winemakers like on the ground and like how do we pair that with the wine and with the cannabis and the food, it's just like the experience. So, I'm like
You're locked in.
Bourdain over here.
Yeah, you are, bro.
You know what I mean? I'm like Anthony Bourdain over here, man, and it hasn't been done yet. Like when you look at it, I'm giving away a lot of my.
You didn't mention media, which is funny because you probably never thought of yourself in that way,
That's
right?
funny about the X thing.
Yeah. It's like you never really thought about yourself in that way. And if you had asked me like, yo, you think I'm gonna do a podcast? I probably would have been like, I can't tell, bro. Like, cause you'd be good. You'd be really good. But I could see you not wanting to have any time for it, but you've actually done it and once again stayed on brand. Like it's you and you're really good at it.
Well, thank you for that, for one. So the fact that that I'm able to have these global experiences, right, is and be in these certain rooms and be around certain people and understand certain experiences and what people wants and needs, right? When I was talking about the restructuring of everything, Creative 7 becomes now the media company, right? And for so long, I wasn't looking at Creative 7 as the media company. I was looking at it as just we're a production company. We're gonna do some films, we're gonna do some docs, we're gonna create content, like we are a production company. But now once I got into the podcast space and the show space, is like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, then this has to be the media company. So yeah, to your point, I have to start throwing that in there. Like, yeah, I'm part of media. So it's crazy for me to say that. Like, I'm somebody who fought the media forever, but call myself media, it is what it is. But we got to grow up, man. It's fun though.
It is fun, and it's why not, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the way we all look at it. And I don't think you can have a business today without some outlet of storytelling
Indeed.
and conversation. And in some ways, the way I've seen it, at least from the far, is that like that's a platform. It's just a platform for you to continue to control how you stay out there.
Absolutely.
If you're not sitting courtside with Eli in a Coors commercial. Young players are thinking about business earlier than I have ever seen. Aside from focus on the game first, what advice would you give?
Yeah, so, the more money you make, the more money you're going to feel like you need to spend, right? And I do feel like today is so many opportunities that they don't even think about. Like, it's hard for them to even think about a lot of the opportunities, right? As a 17-year-old kid who's making $10 million in high school before you go to college, like, what type of business you can make. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I'm kicking it to my son who's in a situation like that, right? It's like, I know you want the bread, like, but sometimes it's brand alignment, right? You got to watch out who you align yourself with, what brand you align yourself with. You got to also, if you're going to be taking this money, you got to understand how this actually works. You can't just take the money and post. Like, you got to really understand how this works. Just get all the information that you really, really need. You have an opportunity to take care of a lot of things that you may wanted to take care of, right? Family, you could take care of your family right now. You get what I'm saying? Like, so by the time you get to the NBA, God's willing, it's basketball for you. Like, you should be setting it up right now to where by the time you get there, it's all basketball. And it's almost reversed.
Handle your business.
Handle your business, like, whereas though we had to play, be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and then after handle our business. Yeah. They have an opportunity to handle business now before they even get to college.
That's crazy.
Into the NBA. So these next 2-3 years is very pivotal on what you can create, what you can do, the type of investment you can start making right now. You can get any deal you want right now as a 17-year-old kid. He's in high school really making professional money, right? So when you have that, the amount of money that you're making and that you have incoming, somebody or people should be around you telling you how to navigate this, right? Because at 17 years old, you give me $500,000, $1 million, I'm thinking that's going to my pocket. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, if you able to structure this out, you can build your conglomerate before you even get to the NBA.
Yeah. That's like, this is the new era.
This is the new era.
Yeah.
This is the new era. You can build your business prior to going to the NBA.
That's crazy. I've heard people talking about studio hosts or play-by-play. Once again, I'm sitting there thinking like, I think Melo would be great at it, but I don't see it. But
play-by-play is tough.
No, play-by-play I definitely couldn't see you doing, though I think you'd be good, and I think it would be refreshing for fans to start hearing more like real conversation about the game, right? A lot of that's been lost, but I would imagine you'll look at any opportunity at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, the right opportunity. I'll look at like the right opportunity. I'll also look at like, again, I never thought I would do a podcast. Yeah. Right. And sitting at a desk and doing play-by-play. Play-by-play is not my DNA. That's not my DNA. But if we want to talk basketball and we want to talk the game and we want to talk plays and we want to X's and like we want to talk about the psyche of the athlete and what they going through at that moment and why he decided to make that decision, I can give you that perspective all day. For me, I always had this thought process of like, man, as a player, like you looking at guys that played and former players like, man, why are you saying that? Like, I would never say that. I would never go up there and do that. So I always said that to myself. I think now with the way that we're talking about the disconnect between the fans and the players or the fans and the game, like how do we kind of reignite that and bring that back together? I think we have to hurry up and figure that out. So having fresh new blood in there to talk the game of basketball in different ways and different varieties, as opposed to just sitting up there at the desk and everybody's kind of giving their opinion under 2 minutes. And like, that's not the way that the game need to be told anymore.
I agree. And in a lot of ways, your whole era has been looking at a lot of the older players on TV saying like, why are you talking about the game like that?
Absolutely.
So then at the same time, as your era goes into this next phase, this is an opportunity to change that to some degree.
My goal is to, honestly, and I say this like intentionally, like to close that gap, because it's a big gap between former players and current players. Like, it's a major, major gap. So the more time that goes on, the more that gap is going to be stretched apart, right? So for me to be able to jump into that space and really kind of like have that, be that conduit once again to certain generations, because I had the generation before me, but I also looked at and studied the generation that was before that, right? And I also had my generation, and I'm able to the generation after me, right? And the generation after that, right? So I'm in a very, a very good situation where I can actually kind of control that narrative between the athletes of like, and change the narrative of like everybody that go on TV is not actually talking bad about the players. Like I have my perspective and my opinion, but I'm never going to disrespect who you are as a man or a woman. I'm never going to question your integrity. I'm never going to question if you want to play, because I know all of those things as a former athlete. Yeah,
I say you get an Amazon or NBC bag and just like figure it out.
Yeah, it got to be right though. It has to be right. It has to feel like home. It has to feel like it. I also understand it's new, right, for both sides. Like it's very new for Amazon, very new for NBC. So it's like the newness of that for me is like, damn, what is this? It's exciting, but it's like, what is this going to be? Like, this is not no small task that we just gonna pop up on TV and like talk the game. And no, this is work. Like, this is a real job now. Like, either way, on either side, this is what I have to wrap my mind around in order to make that decision. Absolutely.
Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
This was a great conversation, man. Hopefully we find something to work on. We've been talking about it
Yeah,
forever,
we've been talking
bro.
about it for a while.
Let me get a bottle of wine or something, though.
I got something for you here, man. I actually bought you a gift, man.
Did you?
Yeah, I bought you a gift. I'll give it to you off camera, man.
Appreciate you, bro. Tune in, subscribe, watch, go to boardroom.tv. February cover story with the one and only Carmelo Anthony.
Peace.